Okay, so I want to show you something I built. It's a full-on business intelligence dashboard. And the crazy part? Just 24 hours ago, I knew basically zero SQL. I gave myself this insane challenge, and now I'm going to walk you through exactly how it all went down. And I'm not kidding. A day ago, SQL might as well have been a foreign language. To me, a database was just a glorified spreadsheet, right? A super complicated Excel file. The whole idea of writing code to talk to data, yeah, that felt way, way over my head.
So I did what any reasonable person would do. I set a completely ridiculous goal. Just 24 hours. That's it. One day. To go from zero, a total beginner, to a real working dashboard. And yeah, the clock started ticking immediately.
And that's really the big question here, isn't it? Can a total beginner actually build something real, something useful, in just one day? Well, we're about to find out.
So you're probably wondering, why the crazy deadline? Well, it's simple, really. You know how it is. You look at job descriptions for data roles, marketing, even product management, and SQL is just everywhere. I knew I had to learn it, but there was a problem. I was just stuck. You know that feeling? You open a tutorial, your eyes glaze over, and you just close the tab. I was in a total procrastination loop. The only way out for me was to set a goal that wasn't about studying SQL, but about building something with it, a real project. That was the only way to break through. All right, so the clock's ticking, right? I didn't have time for some 10-hour course. I had to be ruthless. I focused only on the absolute essentials, the handful of commands that, let's be real, do like 90% of the heavy lifting in data analysis. Okay, so the first two you absolutely have to know are select and from. They go together. Just think about it like ordering food. Select is what you're ordering. I'll have the burger and fries. And from is the menu you're ordering from. Simple as that. You're just telling the database what you want and where to find it. So my first query ever, it was this simple. That little star, the asterisk, just means give me everything. And let me tell you, when I ran that and saw actual data appear on the screen, wow, that was a huge confidence boost. It was like my hello world moment for data. Okay, so select and from get you the whole menu. But what if you only want something specific? That's where the where clause comes in. And this is where you start to feel like you have superpowers. You're not just dumping data anymore. You're filtering it. You're asking really specific questions. So for instance, with this query here, I'm no longer getting all the customers. Nope, I'm getting a super precise answer to a very specific question. Hey, database, just show me the customers from Mexico. See the difference? But then you get to group by. And this is where the real magic happens. This is the command that takes all that messy data and starts organizing it into neat little summary piles. For me, this was a massive aha moment. I wasn't just fetching data anymore, I was starting to summarize it.
You pair it with something like count, which just counts things, and suddenly you can write a query like this. And boom, you get this perfect list, every country, and the exact number of customers we have there. Think about that. I was creating new information. That summary didn't exist anywhere in the raw data. All right, the last big one I had to learn was join. Here's the deal. Data is usually kept in separate tables, like a puzzle. You've got your customer info in one box and all their orders in another box. Join is like the magic key that lets you connect those two boxes together using something they both share, like a customer ID. And honestly, this felt like another superpower. I could write a join, and suddenly I'm connecting the customers table with the orders table. I'm not just seeing a random order ID anymore. I'm seeing the actual customer's name right next to the thing they bought. It lets you build the full story. So, okay, that's the theory, right? But knowing the words is one thing, and actually writing a sentence is totally different. My grip on the basics was, let's say, shaky, but it was functional. It was time to stop learning and start building. So to make this real, I had to give myself a goal. I put on my pretend manager hat and thought, okay, if this were my company, what would I need to know? You know, the big questions. Which products are actually making us money? Who are our best customers? These simple questions became the blueprint for the entire dashboard. And now, the fun part. Every one of those business questions had to be translated into SQL. So a question like, which categories are the most profitable, turns into this exact query right here. I'm telling it to select the category, sum up the profit, and then just order them from best to worst. It's a direct translation. Okay, so I had my queries.
The final step was to make it all look good. I hooked up my database to a free tool, Looker Studio, and started putting the pieces together. And this is what it was all for. The treasure at the end of the 24-hour quest, the finished dashboard.
First thing you see, right at the top, are the big numbers, the headlines. Total sales, $12.6 million. And total profit, about $1.4 million. These are kind of like the vital signs. They give you a quick, instant check on how the business is doing.
But this is where things get really interesting, where you start to find the stories. Look at this chart for profit by category. Technology, that huge bar, is obviously our biggest winner. But then, look over at furniture. That bar is tiny. It's really not doing well. A visual like this tells you that story in a split second, way better than a spreadsheet ever could. And it gets crazier. When you drill down into that furniture category, you find this, the tables subcategory. It's not just doing poorly, it's actually losing money. We're paying to sell tables. Now that is a huge insight, something you would absolutely never ever spot just by looking at rows and rows of data. So, after all that, after this crazy 24-hour sprint, what's the takeaway? Let's break down what I actually learned so maybe you can get started on your own journey. Okay, first thing, SQL looks scary, I get it. But it's really not about code. It's about asking smart questions. It's way less intimidating than it looks. Second, you really only need like 4 or 5 key commands to do some seriously powerful analysis. But here's the biggest lesson of all. Forget binge watching tutorials. The fastest way to learn is to build something. The second you have a real question that you want to answer with data, that's when it all clicks. Look, this whole challenge proved to me that if you have a clear goal and just one day of real focus, you can learn an incredibly valuable skill. Seriously, if I can go from knowing nothing to building this in 24 hours, you can definitely get started. So I guess the only question left to ask is, what are you going to build?